Please, before we dive into this wonderful story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, comment, likes, and share with others. Angelina had lived a long, quiet life, one filled with routines and gentle comforts. At 70 years old, she had long resigned herself to the idea that children were never meant to be part of her destiny. Each morning, she woke up with the same calm and steady determination that had carried her through decades of loss, joy, and quiet perseverance. In the small, neatly kept house she shared with her husband, Mr. Joseph, the days were measured by small rituals: a shared cup of tea at sunrise, a walk through the town's modest park, and evenings spent reminiscing over old photographs. Yet beneath this calm exterior, Angelina carried a secret hope that one day her life might hold a surprise, a miracle. One crisp autumn morning, after a particularly peaceful night, she felt a stirring deep within her. It was not a mere flutter of old age, but something altogether unexpected, something that made her heart race with both trepidation and wonder. With cautious excitement, she confided in Mr. Joseph about the feeling, her voice trembling as she said, "Joseph, I believe I am carrying a child." Her words hung in the air like fragile glass, shimmering with hope and uncertainty. Mr. Joseph, whose life had always been marked by practicality and a strict adherence to what was considered possible, could not help but laugh off the idea. "Surely you must be joking, Angelina," he said dismissively. "At 70, it is impossible to conceive." His laughter, meant to be light-hearted, carried an edge of disbelief. In his eyes, there was no space for miracles. Life had taught him only to accept what was rational. Angelina's smile wavered as she looked into his eyes, wondering if perhaps she had been foolish to believe in the possibility of change. Yet, as days turned into weeks, the feeling grew stronger. The secret was hers alone, a secret that fluttered inside her like a timid bird finding its wings. Each morning, as she stepped onto her porch, she felt the strange, constant reminder of the little life stirring within her. The news was both a burden and a blessing, wrapping her in a cocoon of anticipation and silent wonder. Though Mr. Joseph remained skeptical, Angelina began to prepare herself for a future she had never dared to imagine. Every small moment became filled with hidden significance: the scent of freshly brewed tea, the soft rustle of the autumn leaves, and even the quiet hum of the old clock on the wall seemed to carry messages of promise. In the solitude of her thoughts, Angelina nurtured a deep, personal connection with the life growing inside her, a connection that whispered of hope and redemption. Little did she know that this secret would soon burst forth into a reality that would shake the foundations of her world and the very soul of her husband. The following days brought a mix of inner turmoil and quiet preparation for the unknown. Angelina's secret soon became an unspoken companion, whispering to her in moments of solitude and reflection. With each passing day, the evidence of her growing condition became harder to ignore. Yet, whenever she attempted to share her quiet wonder with Mr. Joseph, his reaction remained the same: a dismissive chuckle followed by cold disbelief. Joseph's skepticism was deeply rooted in his practical nature. In his eyes, miracles were nothing more than stories for children and fairy tales, not matters of real life. "You must be mistaken," he would say in a tone that bordered on irritation. His voice, usually steady and reliable, now carried an edge as he struggled to come to terms with the idea of defying nature. For him, every rule had its limit, and the possibility of a 70-year-old woman carrying a child was beyond that limit. His disbelief was not born of malice, but of a rigid adherence to what was scientifically and socially accepted. In the quiet corners of their modest home, Angelina began to record her thoughts in a small, leather-bound journal. Each entry was filled with wonder and a slow-building resolve. She wrote about the gentle stirrings of life inside her, the strange dreams that visited her at night, and the secret joy that even the softest echo of a heartbeat brought. This journal became her safe haven, a private testament to her hidden hope. She described how the light filtered differently through the morning window, casting playful shadows on the floor, as if nature itself was celebrating her miraculous state. Despite Joseph's continuous dismissals, Angelina sought quiet moments of solace in the nearby park, where she would sit on a weathered bench and watch the autumn leaves dance in the wind. Here, in the calm embrace of nature, she felt a deep connection to something larger than herself, a gentle promise that life was capable of surprises. The trees, with their quiet resilience, seemed to murmur secrets of renewal and rebirth. Their silent strength whispered that every ending might also be a new beginning. Yet within the walls of their home, the conversation was often stifled by Joseph's disapproval. Each time she mentioned her growing secret, he shut down the topic as if it were forbidden. His dismissals were like sharp edges that chipped away at her hopeful spirit. But even in the face of repeated denials, Angelina remained quietly defiant. She clung to her inner truth, the unyielding belief that sometimes life took unexpected turns that defied conventional wisdom. In her quiet moments, she imagined a future where her secret would no longer be hidden, where the world would see her as a beacon of possibility. Little did she know that her silent struggle was only the beginning of a long journey, a journey that would soon unravel secrets, test loyalties, and change the lives of everyone involved in ways neither she nor Joseph could have ever foreseen. As the weeks passed, Angelina's condition became more apparent. Though she managed to keep it hidden from prying eyes, in the solitude of early mornings and late evenings, she noticed small changes in her body that could no longer be dismissed as the quirks of old age. Her hands, once steady and assured, now trembled slightly with the weight of hidden anticipation. Yet each change was embraced with quiet strength. Angelina saw these signs as a personal testament to the miracle unfolding within her, a miracle that challenged every rule and assumption of the world she knew. Every day, as she took slow walks through the familiar streets of her town, she felt a profound connection to the life growing inside her. The world around her seemed to glow with a soft, enchanted light, and even the simple act of breathing felt like a sacred ritual. She found herself pausing before a blooming flower or listening intently to the song of a passing bird, recognizing in these moments the silent music of hope and renewal. It was as if nature was speaking directly to her heart, encouraging her to trust in the impossible. In contrast, within the quiet confines of their home, Joseph's doubts deepened. Each time Angelina's condition was subtly alluded to, a softened tone of excitement, a fleeting smile that revealed more than she intended, Joseph's mind raced with suspicion. His practical nature wrestled with the unsettling possibility that his wife, the woman he had known for so long, was harboring a secret that defied every scientific explanation. Despite the growing distance between them, Angelina tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy. She busied herself with small projects around the house and tended to a little garden in the backyard, a project that became her personal sanctuary. The garden bloomed under her care, vibrant with the colors of late summer and early autumn, and every sprouting leaf reminded her of the life burgeoning inside her. Yet, within their household, tension grew. Joseph's suspicions cast a shadow over even the brightest moments. The once shared moments of quiet understanding were now clouded by a growing rift. As his questions about faith and fidelity seeped into every corner of their life together, Angelina remained steadfast. Her journey was one of silent courage, a journey that would soon lead to revelations neither she nor Joseph could have ever predicted. Born of the miracle unfolding within her and the sorrow for the loneliness that often accompanied such a secret, Paulina knew in her heart that this was more than just an unexpected change. It was a sign that life, in its mysterious ways, could always surprise. Meanwhile, George's inner world was a turbulent sea of doubts and fears. Every time he saw Paulina's gentle smile or caught a glimpse of her thoughtful gaze, a knot tightened in his chest. He began to question everything about their life together. How could a woman he had known for decades suddenly become the bearer of such an unbelievable secret? Had he misjudged her all these years? In his solitude, George revisited old memories, searching for clues that might explain this perplexing change. Every shared moment was now reinterpreted through the lens of suspicion. The quiet evenings, the simple laughter, and even the familiar comfort of home were now tainted by uncertainty. One afternoon, as the golden sun bathed the small town in its warm glow, Paulina took a walk to the old community center. There, she encountered a group of elderly women engaged in quiet conversation, their voices low and compassionate. They spoke of life's unpredictable turns and the strange ways in which hope could manifest. One of them, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, remarked, "Life always finds a way to surprise us, doesn't it?" That simple statement resonated deeply with Paulina. For her, the idea that life could offer a miracle even at an age when hope seemed to have withered was both a comfort and a quiet rebellion against the cynicism of the world. In that moment, as the soft murmur of supportive voices filled the room, she realized that her secret was not something to be hidden away in shame or sorrow. It was a quiet triumph of the human spirit, a reminder that miracles were not the sole domain of youth. Even as George's doubts grew louder in the corridors of their home, Paulina began to see her situation as a gift, a secret strength that would guide her through the coming days. Yet, with every word of encouragement and every gentle smile, there was also an undercurrent of fear, the fear of what would happen when the truth could no longer be contained, the fear of the day when the miracle inside her would burst forth into the light for all to see. The community's whispered support and the subtle signs of hope in the autumn air gave her strength, even as she braced herself for the challenges ahead. Little did she know that these quiet moments of understanding were laying the groundwork for a dramatic transformation, one that would force every person in her life to confront the true meaning of hope, love, and forgiveness. The day arrived without fanfare, a seemingly ordinary morning that belied the extraordinary events unfolding within Paulina's life. The chill of early winter was beginning to edge into the crisp air when she felt an intense, undeniable stirring that signaled the approach of a momentous occasion. Inside the modest home she had shared with George for so many years, a palpable tension mixed with quiet excitement filled every room. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the very walls held their breath in awe of the miracle about to be revealed. In the dim light of dawn, as Paulina prepared a simple breakfast, her body spoke in a language words could not capture. A sudden, sharp pain, both alarming and strangely natural, reminded her that the time had come. With trembling hands and a pounding heart, she signaled to the few trusted neighbors who had come to know her gentle struggle. Their eyes, filled with compassion and quiet wonder, met hers as they offered their support. Word of Paulina's imminent labor spread quickly through the town like a warm, unexpected breeze. Even those who had doubted the possibility of her miracle found themselves holding their breath in collective anticipation. Inside the house, every detail took on an almost sacred quality. The old photographs lining the walls, the hand-knit quilt draped over the sofa, and even the worn-out clock on the mantel seemed to participate in the unfolding drama. Every tick of the clock was a reminder of the precious seconds leading to an event that would rewrite the known limits of life. As the hours passed, Paulina clung to memories of a long life marked by resilience and quiet dignity. She recalled the years of hardship, the moments of unspoken grief, and the rare occasions of unexpected joy. Each memory was a stitch in the tapestry of her existence, a tapestry that now held the promise of renewal and rebirth. With every contraction, she felt the pull of time, a deep connection to the past, and an undeniable invitation to step into a future filled with mystery. Outside, the sky was a canvas of swirling gray clouds and gentle light. Neighbors who had gathered in shared concern and curiosity waited in silent hope. Even George, who had long dismissed the possibility as mere folly, found himself drawn by the murmurs of disbelief and the undercurrent of regret that haunted his every waking moment. Though he stood at a distance, his heart pounded with the realization that something extraordinary was happening, a miracle that defied logic and challenged everything he had ever believed. As labor progressed and the hours turned into a tapestry of pain and determination, the miracle at the heart of Paulina's life took form. The intensity of the moment was matched only by the strength of her spirit. In the soft glow of early twilight, Amidst quiet prayers and supportive whispers, 2 new lives entered the world. The cries of the newborns filled the air, a sound both heart-wrenching and deeply moving, a sound that would echo through the years as a symbol of hope and rebirth. The birth of the twins was nothing short of miraculous. Each tiny cry, each trembling breath was a defiance of nature's expectations and a triumph of the human spirit. In that instant, the quiet home was transformed into a sanctuary of life, where every tear and every smile bore witness to the mystery of existence. While the community celebrated in hushed tones and tender embraces, a deeper drama was already unfolding, one that would test the bonds of love and faith and set in motion events that none could have predicted. In the days that followed the miraculous birth, the small home that had once been a haven of quiet routine was swept up in a storm of emotion and disbelief. Paulina, still reeling from the overwhelming joy and pain of childbirth, cradled her newborns with a love that was deep and mysterious. Each soft murmur and gentle coo filled her heart with hope for a future that had suddenly become brighter. Yet, shadows of doubt began to creep in from an unexpected source. George, who had long harbored skepticism about the possibility of such a miracle, now found himself caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Instead of sharing in the joy of new life, his mind became consumed by suspicion and disbelief. To him, there was only one possible explanation: infidelity. His practical nature twisted the miracle into a puzzle of betrayal. How could his beloved, the woman he had known for decades, have been unfaithful in a manner so unimaginable? The first words of accusation were whispered in a low, trembling tone that sent ripples through the household. "Paulina, how could you do this? How could you betray our life together?" His voice, laced with bitterness, struck at the heart of their home. His questions were not merely inquiries, but proclamations of disbelief and anger. Every smile, every gentle gesture from Paulina was now tainted by the stain of a supposed indiscretion. Still weak from childbirth, Paulina barely had the strength to respond. Her eyes, filled with hurt and confusion, pleaded for the understanding George refused to offer. The twins, oblivious to the storm raging around them, slept quietly in their cradle, a silent testament to the purity of new life amid the chaos of human emotion. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueling the fire of suspicion. In a moment of heated anger, George declared their marriage over. The divorce, once finalized, left an indelible scar on both their hearts. For Paulina, it was not just the loss of a partner, but of the faith that had sustained her through decades of quiet hope. For George, it marked the beginning of a journey into regret, one that would haunt him for years to come. Where love and doubt warred silently in the hearts of those who once vowed to cherish each other above all else, the storm of accusations slowly subsided, leaving behind a trail of broken promises and lingering questions, a prelude to the deeper, more painful exploration of regret and redemption that would soon shape the lives of everyone involved. In the wake of the explosive accusations and the bitter finality of divorce, Paulina found herself alone in a world she had once shared with someone she had trusted implicitly. The small house that had echoed with the soft hum of shared routines was now a silent monument to lost promises and shattered bonds. With the twins cradled in her arms, she felt the weight of each memory. The laughter, the gentle caresses, the quiet moments of understanding that had defined her marriage. Now, every corner of the home murmured with the ghosts of what might have been. In those early days after the divorce, Paulina moved slowly through her grief. The pain was raw, cutting deep into a heart that had believed in miracles and trusted love. Each day, she rose with quiet determination to face her new reality, yet the emptiness left behind by George's departure was a constant companion. The twins, with their innocent eyes and soft cries, became her reason to keep moving forward. Their tiny hands reaching for her, their first smiles, their tentative steps. Each moment was a reminder that life, even in the midst of heartbreak, was a testament to resilience. The community rallied around her in small, caring gestures: a neighbor's freshly baked bread, a friend's visit with a warm smile, a kind word in passing at the market. These acts of kindness provided a fragile thread of comfort when loneliness threatened to overwhelm her. Yet behind every act of compassion lay an unspoken sorrow, a recognition that Paulina's heart was slowly mending, even as it bore scars too deep to forget. Meanwhile, George retreated into a world of regret and self-recrimination. The anger and doubt that had led to the divorce now haunted him relentlessly. In quiet moments, he replayed the events of that fateful day, the sharpness of his words, the cold finality in his tone. Regret settled over him like a heavy fog. He began to question every decision, wondering if his insistence on logic had blinded him to the possibility of a miracle. Each day, as he wandered through empty rooms that once held shared memories, he was confronted with a painful realization. His doubts had cost him the most precious gift of his life. In a quiet corner of a local cafe, where the soft murmur of conversations mingled with the aroma of fresh coffee, George sat alone, staring at a cup that had long since gone cold. He watched the steam rising from it, as if it were a metaphor for the life that had slipped away. The regret that filled him was almost unbearable. He recalled Paulina's gentle eyes, her tender smile, the quiet strength that had defined her every gesture. Now, with the twins growing up in a home that no longer included him, he could only wonder if he had ever truly understood the meaning of love. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the distance between the once inseparable couple grew into an unbridgeable chasm. Paulina focused on rebuilding her life, nurturing not only the tiny lives in her arms, but also the fragile hope that one day the truth might be understood. The twins, though too young to grasp the complexities of adult betrayal, sensed the tension and responded with quiet resilience. Their laughter became a beacon of light in the dark corridors of the past, a promise that even broken hearts could find solace in new beginnings. Yet, in the silent recesses of the town and within the quiet corners of his mind, George wrestled with a growing realization. His accusations, his anger, they might have been born of fear rather than truth. The regret that gnawed at him was a constant reminder that he might have destroyed something truly beautiful simply because he had been unable to accept the impossible. And so, while Paulina's life slowly began to reassemble itself in the aftermath of betrayal, George embarked on a different journey, one of self-reflection, a painful and uncertain quest for redemption in the wake of the greatest mistake of his life. The days following the divorce were a period of profound solitude for Paulina. Every morning, as the sun rose over the quiet town, she felt a mix of sorrow and determination driving her forward. With the twins nestled in a small room of the old house, she began to rebuild her life, brick by careful brick. The journey was not without its hardships. The weight of loneliness and the sting of betrayal lingered like shadows in the corners of each room. Yet, with each passing day, she discovered hidden reserves of strength she had never known before. Determined to embrace her new reality with quiet dignity, Paulina transformed a once-neglected garden into a vibrant space of growth and renewal. The soil, rich and dark, became a canvas for blossoms of hope, each bud a symbol of the future she was determined to nurture. In the gentle act of planting seeds and tending to them, she found solace and a sense of purpose. Soon, the garden flourished with vibrant hues, each flower a reminder that life could emerge even in the harshest conditions. As the twins grew, their laughter and playful chatter filled the house with warmth, slowly healing the wounds of the past. Every giggle, every innocent question, every bedtime story and soft kiss on the cheek reinforced the idea that her life was not defined by sorrow, but by the endless possibilities of tomorrow. Beyond the walls of her home, the town continued its gentle rhythm. Neighbors who had once whispered about her miraculous birth now saw her as a symbol of resilience. They came to her garden for advice, to share in the beauty of the blossoms, and to remind her that even in solitude, one was never truly alone. In these moments of shared humanity, Paulina's heart lightened, and she began to believe that her life had a purpose far greater than the tragedy of the past. Yet, the echo of George's absence was never far away. In quiet moments of reflection, when the wind carried faint memories of what once was, Paulina would pause and allow herself a single deep sigh, a sigh of both loss and release. She had learned to accept that while some chapters of her life had ended in sorrow, new chapters were beginning, each filled with the promise of growth and healing. As dusk painted the sky in shades of pink and lavender, Paulina often sat in her garden, the twins tucked safely in their beds. In those reflective moments, she penned new entries in her journal, words filled with both the pain of yesterday and the hope of a brighter tomorrow. The garden, once a silent corner of neglect, had become a living testament to the enduring power of life. Each bloom, each rustle of leaves, told a story of renewal, a story Paulina was writing with every new day. And so, in the midst of solitude, a quiet strength took root within her. The seeds of resilience, planted in the fertile soil of her heart, promised that even the deepest wounds could eventually give way to beauty and hope. It was a slow, steady process, one that required faith in the unseen and trust in the rhythms of life. Though the pain of betrayal would never fully disappear, Paulina embraced each moment with an unwavering belief that the future, however uncertain, was still filled with light. As months turned into years, the tapestry of life continued to weave itself in unexpected patterns. George, now living in a cold, empty apartment far from the warmth of the small town, found himself haunted by memories of what he had lost. Every morning, as he awoke to the silent echo of his own regrets, he was forced to confront the choices that had led him to this isolated state. His days were spent in a haze of remorse, each moment a reminder that the miracle he had once dismissed now stood as an everlasting monument to his failure. Late at night, he sat by a small window, watching the moon cast pale light on the empty streets below. The shadows, elongated and melancholic, seemed to mirror the depth of his regret. Each time he closed his eyes, he was drawn back to the day of the accusation, the day he had spoken words that could never be taken back. And in the silent corridors of his mind, that moment played on a loop, a piercing reminder of the trust he had shattered. In the town's small cafe, amidst quiet conversations and the clinking of coffee cups, people often spoke of the tragic fallout from a miracle gone awry. They remembered the day of the twins' birth with awe and reverence, only to recall how suspicions soon tore the family apart. Each retelling carried a sense of profound loss, not just of trust, but of the wonder that had once filled their lives. George's regret had slowly transformed into an obsessive quest for redemption. Every day, the thought of approaching Paulina crossed his mind. He imagined apologizing, begging for forgiveness, and perhaps even witnessing firsthand the miracle he had so harshly rejected. Yet fear held him back, fear of rejection, and an even deeper fear that his apology might come too late. In the quiet solitude of his daily existence, George sought solace from old friends and even turned to a local priest, hoping someone could help him make sense of his remorse. The priest, with gentle wisdom, suggested that perhaps redemption lay not just in seeking forgiveness from others, but in learning to forgive oneself for past mistakes. Slowly, George began to understand that his journey would require confronting the darkness within and allowing the possibility of light to seep in once more. Despite this growing awareness, every step forward was burdened by the weight of the past. The twins, who had grown into bright, curious children, were living reminders of the love that had once thrived, a love George had shattered in a single moment of doubt. Their laughter, echoing from the windows of the home Paulina had rebuilt with care, was a bittersweet melody that both tormented and inspired him. The regret that consumed George was as constant as the ticking of the clock in his lonely apartment, a relentless force driving him to seek answers and understand the miracle he had once dismissed. As the years wore on, the distance between him and the life he had lost only widened. His journey of regret persisted, marked by quiet introspection, desperate searches for truth, and the faint hope that one day he might make amends for his greatest mistake. One chilly evening, as winter crept into the town, fate brought George face to face with a forgotten piece of his past. Wandering the narrow lanes, lost in thought, he stumbled upon a small, modest bookstore tucked away on a quiet side street. The warm glow from inside beckoned him, and for a moment, he hesitated at the door, feeling as if he were crossing a threshold between two vastly different worlds. Inside, the scent of old paper and the soft murmur of whispered conversations created an atmosphere of quiet nostalgia. George wandered through the narrow aisles, his eyes scanning the spines of dusty volumes that told stories of love, loss, and redemption. It was there, among those forgotten tales, that he encountered a young woman absorbed in her reading. Her gentle demeanor and thoughtful expression stirred something long dormant within him, a faint spark of compassion. The young woman, whose name was Anna, noticed George's quiet intensity. With a kind smile, she asked, "Are you looking for something special?" Her voice was soft and sincere, and for a moment, the weight of George's regrets lightened, if only slightly. They began to talk, first about books, then about the quiet magic of the town, a place that seemed to hold secrets in every corner. In Anna's unassuming manner, George found himself opening up about the deep, unspoken regrets that had haunted him for so many years. As the conversation deepened, Anna gently encouraged him to share fragments of his sorrow, a sorrow rooted in a moment of weakness, when doubt had overshadowed love. Anna listened with genuine empathy, her eyes reflecting both understanding and a silent hope for redemption. In that quiet bookstore, a connection formed, bridging the gap between George's past regrets and the promise of new beginnings embodied by Anna's gentle spirit. For George, the encounter was like a ray of sunlight breaking through the gloom. Anna's compassion, free from judgment, reminded him of the beauty still present in life, a beauty he had nearly forgotten in his relentless pursuit of regret. As they parted ways that evening, George felt a tentative hope stirring within him, a hope that perhaps one day he could mend the broken pieces of his past. The conversation with Anna lingered in his thoughts for days, prompting him to question whether isolation and self-recrimination were the only ways to cope with the loss he had inflicted on himself and Paulina. Slowly, he began to realize that while he could not undo the past, he might still seek forgiveness and, in doing so, reclaim some of the love that had been lost. That night in the bookstore became a turning point, a quiet, unexpected moment nudging him toward redemption and healing. In the days that followed, George returned to the bookstore more often, not just to escape his sorrow, but to gather the courage to confront his past. Each visit, each conversation, was a small step toward understanding that his journey was far from over, and that even in the midst of regret, there remained the possibility of renewal. The encounter with Anna had opened a door. As George took tentative steps toward it, he began to wonder if he could one day reach out to the woman he had wronged and ask for the forgiveness that might finally allow him to begin a new chapter in his life. In the quiet days that followed, George immersed himself in deep introspection. The encounter with Anna had revealed the possibility of redemption, but the path ahead was fraught with the weight of past mistakes. Every step forward was shadowed by memories of Paulina's gentle eyes, the warmth of her smile, and the unspoken promises that had once bound their lives together. Now, those same memories echoed in the silence of his apartment, serving as constant reminders of what he had lost. Determined to confront the demons of his past, George spent long evenings sifting through old letters and revisiting photographs that captured tender moments of shared intimacy and laughter. With each word and image, he was forced to face the truth. The love he had taken for granted had been far greater than the doubts that had led him astray. His mind became a battlefield, where regret clashed with a growing desire for redemption. In the solitude of his thoughts, George realized that his accusations and the subsequent divorce had not only broken the bonds of a once beautiful marriage, but had also shattered the possibility of ever truly knowing the miraculous nature of life. Late at night, as the town slept under a blanket of quiet darkness, his thoughts turned to Paulina and the twins. He remembered the night of their birth, a night filled with hope and life. The contrast between that night and the bitter aftermath of his doubts filled him with deep sorrow and an overwhelming need to make amends. The turning point came when George decided to write a letter, a long, heartfelt message that sought to capture the depth of his remorse and his fragile hope for reconciliation. In that letter, he poured out every regret, every doubt, and every longing for a return to a time when love was simple and trust was unbroken. Though he knew no words could undo the past, the letter was a step toward understanding the true value of forgiveness. As the days turned into weeks, George's journey toward redemption took on a deliberate pace. He visited places that held memories of their shared life, park benches, quiet corners of the town, each one echoing with the laughter they once shared. Some who once knew him met him with mixed reactions, while others looked away, unwilling to confront the painful reminders of the past. Yet, amidst the internal struggle and quiet reflections, George found a glimmer of resolve. He realized that the path to redemption lay not in grand gestures, but in small, sincere acts of contrition, a willingness to accept responsibility for his actions and to seek forgiveness, even if only for his own peace of mind. And so, in the quiet solitude of his newfound purpose, George began to craft a plan to reach out to Paulina and, if she allowed it, to ask for a chance to make things right. The long road to redemption was marked by silent determination and the relentless hope that one day, the bonds of a broken past might be mended. George held on to the belief that love, even when tarnished by doubt, could still find its way back to the light. As he continued his quiet journey toward redemption, he realized that understanding the true nature of the miracle he had once dismissed was essential, not only for his own healing but also for reconciling with the past. His search for answers began in earnest as he turned to old records, whispered legends, and even scientific literature that questioned the bounds of human possibility. Every scrap of information was a piece of the puzzle that had once seemed impossible, a puzzle that now held the promise of revealing a deeper truth about love, life, and forgiveness. George spent his days combing through local archives in the small-town library, where dusty ledgers and faded newspaper clippings whispered stories of miracles long forgotten. He discovered accounts from years past about unusual births and inexplicable happenings, stories that, while once dismissed as folklore, now resonated with a strange familiarity. He spoke with elderly residents, listening intently as they recounted tales of wonder and mystery. Their words painted a picture of a town steeped in the belief that life often defied logic, that miracles could bloom in the most unexpected places. One particularly poignant conversation was with an old schoolteacher, Mrs. Ramirez, who recalled a time when nature itself seemed to conspire in favor of the miraculous. "Sometimes," she said softly, "the universe gives us a gift when we least expect it. Not all things are meant to be understood by the simple measures of science." Her words, filled with gentle wisdom, struck a chord in George's troubled soul. They made him question the rigid boundaries of his own beliefs and the very foundation of the doubts that had led him to cast aside the miracle of Paulina's childbearing. As George delved deeper into his search, he discovered writings and testimonials from individuals who had experienced similar inexplicable occurrences. These accounts, coming from diverse sources, painted a picture of a world where hope and love could spark change even in the most unlikely circumstances. Each story was a quiet reminder that life was full of mysteries that could not be measured by logic alone. In these pages, George began to see the possibility that perhaps Paulina's miraculous birth was not an aberration, but rather a profound testament to the unpredictable nature of life. In the quiet solitude of his study, surrounded by stacks of old books and handwritten notes, George penned his own reflections. He wrote of the wonder he had once seen in Paulina's eyes, the tender moments that had now become a source of regret, and the unspoken truth that life had a way of unfolding in ways that defied human explanation. With every written word, he felt a small measure of relief, a quiet acknowledgement that the answers he sought were not just hidden in the past, but also in the depths of the human heart. George's quest for answers soon became more than an academic exercise. It was a journey of self-discovery and healing. He reached out to experts in the field of reproductive anomalies, to scientists who had dedicated their lives to understanding the mysteries of life. Their explanations, though rooted in scientific theory, were laced with the recognition that nature still held many secrets. While none could fully explain the miracle of Paulina's twins, their words offered George a measure of comfort. Sometimes, the beauty of life lay not in understanding every detail, but in accepting that some mysteries were meant to remain untouched by the cold hand of reason. Through this quest, George slowly began to piece together a new understanding, a belief that miracles, like love, were unpredictable and fragile, yet profoundly transformative. Each revelation, each quiet moment of clarity, brought him closer to the realization that his past actions, though steeped in doubt and regret, were part of a larger tapestry of life that could still lead to redemption. As the seasons changed and the leaves turned gold and red, George's search for answers became intertwined with his search for forgiveness. The quiet library, the whispered stories, and the gentle wisdom of those who had witnessed the inexplicable all converged to form a new path forward, one that held the promise of healing old wounds and possibly, one day, mending the shattered bond between him and Paulina. With the pieces of his newfound understanding slowly coming together, George realized that the next step in his journey was to face the person who had once meant everything to him. The thought of reaching out to Paulina filled him with both hope and trepidation. After years of isolation and regret, the idea of reconnecting with the woman he had hurt seemed almost too fragile to risk. Yet every fiber of his being yearned for a chance to make amends, a chance to ask for forgiveness, and perhaps begin the slow process of healing the wounds of the past. One brisk afternoon, as the town bustled with the quiet energy of daily life, George finally mustered the courage to write a letter to Paulina. In it, he poured out every regret, every moment of doubt, and every small hope that had kept him going through the long years of remorse. He recalled the gentle way in which she had always believed in the possibility of miracles, the strength she had shown even in the face of betrayal, and the tender love that had once defined their shared life. Each word was carefully chosen, each sentence a quiet prayer for forgiveness. George did not expect an immediate answer. He only hoped that his heartfelt message might one day bridge the gulf that had grown between them. After sending the letter, George felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. Every day, he checked the mailbox with trembling anticipation, waiting for any sign that Paulina might be ready to open the door to a conversation. Days turned into weeks, and the silence that followed was deafening in its implication. But amid the quiet, George began to find solace in the knowledge that he had finally taken the first step toward redemption. His days were now filled with small rituals, a walk to the old library, a quiet cup of tea in the fading light of evening, each moment a silent vow to become a better man. Meanwhile, in the home that Paulina had built, life continued at its own gentle pace. The twins, now a few years old, filled the rooms with their playful laughter and innocent curiosity. Paulina, though still carrying the deep sorrow of her past, found herself strengthened by the daily miracles of life. Each smile from her children, every quiet moment of contentment in her little garden, served as a reminder that despite the pain, life still held beauty and hope. When the long-awaited reply finally arrived, it was not in the form George had expected. There was no immediate forgiveness, no grand reunion. Instead, Paulina's response was a quiet acknowledgement of his letter, a single, carefully written note that said she understood his words, but that time was needed before any further conversation could take place. The letter was simple and measured, yet it held an undercurrent of possibility. It was as if Paulina, with all the quiet dignity that had carried her through years of solitude and strength, was leaving the door ajar for a future where healing might be possible. George clutched that letter as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. In the days that followed, he began to plan a visit, a tentative step toward a conversation that might finally allow both of them to speak the unsaid words and confront the past. Every day was a small battle between hope and fear, but the prospect of seeing Paulina once more was enough to make him brave the uncertainty. That afternoon, As the golden light of late summer bathed the quiet town in warmth, George set out for Paulina's home. The journey was both physical and emotional, a pilgrimage to a place where his regrets were interwoven with the promise of forgiveness. Every step on the worn path was a step toward redemption, a quiet declaration that he was ready to face the consequences of his actions. As he approached the modest house, George's heart pounded with nervous anticipation. In that moment, he knew that whatever lay ahead, this meeting would be a turning point, a chance to finally confront the past and, perhaps, begin a new chapter of healing and understanding. George took a deep breath, his voice soft yet steady. "Paulina, I have come to ask for forgiveness. I know my words and actions caused you deep pain. I have spent many years in regret, and though I cannot change the past, I hope to learn how to live with it and make amends." His words were slow, laden with the heavy truth of his remorse. Paulina's eyes, reflecting both sorrow and quiet compassion, met his as she replied, "George, I have carried the weight of our past for so long. I, too, have experienced the pain of betrayal. Yet, in my heart, I have always believed that every life holds its miracles, even in the darkest of times." Her voice, calm and resolute, carried a note of gentle acceptance, as if she were opening a door to the possibility of healing, though wary of the scars that remained. The conversation that followed was measured and filled with raw honesty. In the quiet living room, with soft light filtering through lace curtains, they spoke of memories, of better days filled with love and shared dreams, and of the moment when everything changed. George recounted his deep regrets and relentless search for answers, while Paulina shared the quiet strength that had sustained her through the lonely years of raising their children on her own. Every word was a step toward understanding, a slow and painful unraveling of the tangled threads of their past. Time seemed to stand still in those precious hours. The twins played quietly in a nearby room, their laughter a soft, constant reminder of the life that had sprung from a miracle. In that space between past and future, the conversation became a fragile bridge, a tentative connection built on shared pain and the deep, unyielding hope that forgiveness was not beyond reach. Though the wounds ran deep, both George and Paulina sensed a quiet possibility emerging. There was no grand promise of a renewed relationship, no sudden erasure of the past. Instead, there was a mutual recognition of the hurt and a fragile hope that, perhaps, over time, healing could take root. As their conversation drew to a close, George stood at the doorway, lingering in silence. Paulina handed him a small, folded note, her soft smile carrying the weight of unspoken understanding. "Take your time, George. Healing is a journey, not a destination. Let's see where it leads us." With those words, the door closed gently behind him, leaving them both with a quiet hope that even after years of regret and sorrow, there was still a chance for redemption, however small, to blossom in the twilight of their lives. In the months that followed, Paulina and George embarked on a quiet journey of healing. It was not a path that promised to erase the past or restore what had been lost, but one that allowed for the possibility of new beginnings. For Paulina, every day was filled with the joy of watching her twins grow, their innocent laughter a constant reminder that life still held magic and hope. She continued to nurture her vibrant garden, a living testament to resilience and renewal, and found solace in the gentle rhythm of daily routines that connected her to the beauty of the natural world. For George, the path was marked by a series of small, meaningful gestures. He wrote more letters, each one a careful exploration of his regrets and a quiet hope for forgiveness. He began volunteering at the local library, helping to restore old community records, as if each repaired page could somehow mend the torn chapters of his own life. With each passing day, he felt a slow but steady easing of the heavy burden that had weighed on him for so long. A chance reunion at a community event brought them together once more, this time not as estranged lovers, but as two souls who had shared a long, complicated journey. The town, once whispering about the miraculous birth that had defied logic, now witnessed the quiet reconciliation of two hearts battered by regret yet buoyed by the promise of forgiveness. Under twinkling lights in the town square, George and Paulina sat together on an old bench, their conversation gentle and reflective. They spoke of the future in tentative tones, of the possibility of shared memories, and of the healing power of time. There was no rush to rebuild what had been, only a quiet agreement to let the past rest and to celebrate the small moments of joy the present could offer. In the soft glow of twilight, as the gentle murmur of the town faded into the background, both realized that their lives had been irrevocably changed by the events of the past. And yet, they had grown into people capable of love and forgiveness beyond measure. For George, the journey of regret had finally transformed into one of quiet redemption. He had learned that true forgiveness began with accepting his own humanity, a lesson that allowed him to see the beauty in Paulina's resilience and the wonder in the miracle he had once denied. For Paulina, each new day was a celebration of life's mysteries, a testament to the fact that even in the twilight years, miracles could bloom and hope could find fertile ground in unexpected places. As the seasons turned and time moved gently forward, the once fractured hearts began to mend. Their relationship did not return to what it once was, nor did it seek to reclaim the past. Instead, it evolved into a quiet friendship, built on mutual understanding, respect, and the shared recognition that both had been forever changed by love, doubt, and redemption. In that evolution lay the promise of new beginnings, a reminder that no matter how dark the night, the dawn would eventually break, illuminating a future filled with the soft, enduring light of forgiveness and hope. And so, in the final quiet moments of that long and winding journey, Paulina and George embraced the truth that life was a tapestry of miracles and mistakes, woven together by the fragile threads of hope. It was a truth that allowed them to step into the future with quiet grace, knowing that even in the aftermath of loss, there remained the possibility of a new beginning, a gentle unfolding of life's mysteries, as boundless and enduring as the stars in the night sky.